back to 1992, and what led up to, if you will just tell us the story of the series of investigations and reporting that was done that led to the editorials that you penned that won the Pulitzer.
Yeah, I think I'll give you a little background too, if you don't mind, about how I was a happy Washington correspondent, living that journalist's dream of covering Congress and having credentials that got you in anywhere. I was 29 years old and got a call from David Holwork in Lexington about whether I might be interested in editorial writing, and I didn't even have a favorite color. So I really thought I lacked opinions, and why would he want to have me come and write opinions? But I came out to Lexington and actually loved the group, loved that the newspaper was doing such important work in Kentucky, and had John Carroll, the late John Carroll, who was my friend and mentor, along with David, at the helm. And so I said, okay, I'm moving to Kentucky. And I actually graduated from high school in Louisville. So I just wanted to give that background, that I was pleased to come back, but thought, what in the world am I going to do? I don't know how to write editorials. So I had not been writing editorials for very long. I guess I got here in September of 1989. And the following spring, we had a terrible hostage crisis in Lexington. A woman named Jeannie Purcell was taken hostage by her estranged husband, who drove in from Virginia. Other people were taken hostage. After 17 hours, she lay dead. He'd shot her, and then he shot himself. I brought with you some of her words that were found in a letter on her dresser. I took it for 3 years, and I almost lost my children because of it. The reason they didn't come back to Virginia is I couldn't subject them to that. It was damn hard on them to sit by and watch their mother get beat. My kids can tell you some horror stories about living there, and so could I. He scares me, he really does. He's threatened to kill my family, my kids, and me. I know what he's capable of, so I don't take his threats lightly. I was a typical editorial board member. We slept through the hostage crisis while the reporters at the Herald Leader covered it. And my job the next day was to write one editorial about whether the system had failed Jeannie Purcell. And through those calls to people who knew about domestic violence in Kentucky, I realized that the problem was a large problem in Kentucky, and that women were not really getting the protection they deserved in some parts of the state more than in others. And so I asked that John Carroll and David please give this to the investigative reporting team, and they said, no, you keep it. And so that is how I began to report the facts that then were the basis on which the editorials appeared.
How long a time period are we talking about here?
Okay, so we published the first editorial in December of 1990, and we published nearly 30 editorials over the course of 1991.
And the Pulitzer came in 1992?
That's right.
During the process of the reporting that was being done, the investigative reporting that was being done, how much attention did that get in the public? How much attention did it get from officialdom and law enforcement and others? Because at the time, I think you were more or less, from what I've read of the editorials that you wrote, challenging an existing system that needed challenging, and in a way that would bring about change.
Well, the thing to note is that Kentucky was the second to last state in the country to say it was against the law to rape your wife. And the backdrop of the conversation in public life was that if you started to pass more of these laws, the vengeful women would come out of the woodwork, and that was a quote. people who worked on behalf of battered women had worked tirelessly for the laws that we had in Kentucky and also for the procedures that were there. So what happened was a groundswell of support from the public, not only because of the Herald Leaders editorials, but the Courier Journal also did an investigative reporting series that year looking into, again, the problems with enforcement of the laws that were on the books and the laws that needed to be passed to expand protection. Now, John Galsworthy once said that public opinion always comes in advance of the law, and that's what we saw, because I saw women's groups and business women and not just women rising up and saying, well, we want things to be improved. And I still tell this story. It's one of my favorite stories, and it happened right here in Frankfort, Kentucky. A woman named Clayton Bradley, whose family owned Scotty's Pink Pig Barbecue, if any of you remember that. She read about one of her friends from church. She thought that the young woman had been in a car accident, but her boyfriend, in fact, had beaten her up. People didn't know that till they read the editorials and saw the woman's face and saw her name. So Scotty passed out the reprint, Clayton passed out the reprint with every order of barbecue and told people to phone their legislators. So to me, that's what's the most important thing. The newspaper and my editorials and all we did not get the changes made in Kentucky. The public demanded it, and that's the way it needs to be.